And hello, welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Hi guys, happy Friday. We're
The
gonna
13th.
attempt to apply logic and reason to this week.
We're going to attempt. I have a lot to say on it. But I'm going to try to just report as much as I can first and not get distracted. But I brought a drink just in case.
When you look up easily distracted, you will see Mac and Stacy's picture next to it. Oh, piece of candy. Oh, piece of candy.
Don't throw Stacy into the bus here.
She has a t-shirt that says easily.
And I'm not sharing my candy.
I don't blame you.
All right, so
might not find me at the stores, so you better not share your candy.
Right? No kidding. I work at a grocery store.
Oh God,
so
the pictures are crazy.
Yeah, I showed Christy one of the pictures. Our TP's completely, our bread's mostly. Stuff like that. It's taken like three times the amount of time to stock anything.
Yeah. We have a friend who works at Costco, and he sent us a picture. His job was to go outside and see if there were any carts because people were complaining that there weren't carts. And he took pictures because, going into the front of the store, one way wrapped around the store were people with carts waiting in line, and the other way around the store were people with carts waiting in line. That's why there weren't any carts, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're so woefully underprepared.
We are, and we are going to circle back to that. So, because we're going to talk about that a lot tonight. All right. So, I've said it 4 times now.
You're just preparing yourself for that.
Oh, I know. All right. So the first thing is actually pretty cool. I saw, as I've told you before, the only time I really look at like what's trending on Twitter is before the show, about 9:30. Today it was 9. I had a little extra time. So I saw things that were perfect for a religious news topic. And this is neat. So I think you're gonna have a fun little nugget here, everyone. The Dead Sea Scrolls, have you heard? Are all forgeries.
Yes, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. In a report spanning more than 200 pages, a team of researchers led by a art fraud investigator, Colette Lull, found that the pieces were probably made of ancient leather, but they were inked in modern times and modified to resemble real Dead Sea Scrolls. The quote from Lull says, "These fragments were manipulated with the intent to deceive."
Of course.
The article from the National Geographic website also said that once you find that like 1 or 2 of the fragments are fake, they probably all are. There's it's quite the article. I'd say it's about It's actually quite the long read.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you like a number.
Just share it in the chat if you can.
Yeah, there you go. That's smart, Christy.
Just
find it yourselves. Sorry, guys. No sources. Here you go. It's in the live chat. Check that out. Open it up. Watch us now. Read that after. If you guys would please take a second. Go to the URL up here at the top of your screen, copy it, throw it on Twitter, throw it on Facebook. Please share it out. We have a really good show tonight. We want as many people as we can possibly get to watch it. And also, we are 12 subscribers away from 700.
I know.
So please share it and tell your friends to subscribe. Have them check us out. All right. That said, the other thing on religious news, is Donald Trump at around 7 o'clock tonight, our time. So that would be almost 4 hours ago now. said, "It is my great honor to declare Sunday, March 15th, as National Day of Prayer. We are a country that, throughout our history, has looked to God for protection and strength in times like these." So that's a thing. I have mixed feelings on this. Mostly, I'm just like everyone else on Twitter, saying, "Hey, separation of church and state, no fucking duh," right? Also, like, I kind of don't give a shit a little bit. Like, we have I can't remember which day it is, but we have like an atheist day, but it's not like a national atheist day. But also, I don't want like a president declaring like a national day of prayer.
Right.
Although I do want that separation of church and state. If enough people democracied, right, and like signed a petition to make a national day of prayer, I'm like, all right, well, I hate it, but enough people want it, and I'm for democracy. So that the way he went about it, though, is stupid. Stupid one. Sorry, slipped. And just really not the way to declare any kind of national holiday. So that's that. So that was the other thing trending on Twitter: separation of church and state.
Build that wall between church and state.
Yes, keep it there. So, oh, now my new filler is so, god damn it. And yeah, so that's all that I had for religious news, actually, was just those two things. So that was nice and quick. Please, again, check out that link, because it was really interesting. I only got to read about half of it, if that. So go ahead and check it out. And it's cool. All right, so the next thing up is, I forgot. That should put it up for me. Religious news and then coronavirus.
Yeah.
COVID-19.
My corona.
The 9 coronas. She looked like Cindy Crawford after 9 coronas.
I love him.
I'm glad we're not monetized yet.
Yeah.
I can do that as much as I want. All right. So, all right. The coronavirus has swept the nation for attention. But is it just silly, or is it something we should be worried about?
Yeah.
Christy, what's your take? Should we be worried about it?
Right. With the average death rate is 3.4, give or take 3.2 to 3.4, not like internationally, but here it's 3.6. That's not good.
That we know.
3% of the population would be 11 million.
Yeah, it would. Wasn't the Spanish flu about 4%, 4 something?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's scary how underprepared we are. You know, when I first started doing anything on YouTube, it was on Faye, Wonder Lady's channel. And I remember a conversation her and I had. I remember it all the time, but I remember it even more in the last month or two. She had said, coming up to right after the 2016 election, you should always think before you vote on the ballot, which one would I prefer if a pandemic happened? And that's kind of far-fetched, and it is important though, because if your choices were Clinton or Trump, no third parties, just those two, which one would be more prepared for that? I mean, yeah, it would be Hillary, unfortunately. When it comes to Biden or Trump, which one would be more prepared?
It's really hard to say.
The people around Biden would be more prepared. They wouldn't slash programs. They would add programs. So there's that. But it wouldn't be
look
Trump.
At the administration.
I'm saying it would never be Trump. And so that's where we're at, a pandemic and a Cheeto McTweeto. I don't. It's worse than that. That's my
one of the best names I've
That's
heard.
my fun name for him.
It is, and I've heard it, and I always love it. Always
so good. It just fits. My phone knows it too, because if I write CHE, my phone spells out the rest for me.
That's awesome.
It is.
So real quick, just getting the facts. Who? The World Health Organization, WHO, saw that to play.
Yeah. Are you an
has estimated the mortality rate for COVID-19 is about 3.4, which is what Christy said. That is higher than the seasonal flu and is cause for concern. Yada yada, but more than 90. Yada yada, numbers. facts, and how do I feel about it? No, more than 96% of people who become infected with the coronavirus will recover.
Right.
So that is something important to know. But that means 4% of people who get infected with the coronavirus could die from it, right? As Christy said, did you say 11 million?
That's 11. Yeah, that's conservative. That would just be 3.
That's again, that's just for the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a cause for concern. Yes, people keep saying that the flu is more deadly. Well, we don't. Yeah, it's because of the jargon that's been thrown out. If you ask. Yeah, and it also depends on who you ask. If you ask an expert, you get, no, it's not.
Right.
If you ask like a politician, sure, it's just as scary as the flu.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to get tonight, was this part of the conversation. Should you be concerned? You should be concerned for multiple reasons. One is it is more deadly. It is what 10 to 30 times more deadly than the flu.
Yeah.
That's scary. All right. That's coming from health professionals. So don't take it from me. Don't take it from politicians. Take it from the professionals. I'll move on. The other reason that people don't quite understand, and this is what infuriates me, this will link it to religion very easily. It's hard to stay away from it, really. This is COVID-19. This is the coronavirus 2019. All right, because there are multiple strains of coronavirus. The coronavirus is a family of viruses. So what I'm more worried about is the fact that if it continues to spread, we will have a new coronavirus that will mutate, right? Anyone here who's like, not just a humanist, but like, who trusts in science a little bit more, like that group of humanists or atheists or whatever.
The science literate.
Yeah, the science literate knows that viruses, it's just a different species of being on this planet, right? They're just fighting for survival, and they evolve to survive, right? They don't evolve to survive. It's just whatever evolves survives, right? There's no intent behind it.
Whatever can reproduce.
Right. So whatever makes it through us, the young people, will get through stronger. And it could just gradually mutate to a point to where it is a completely different strain. It could be COVID-20.
What? Evolution is 21. Real?
Evolution is real, right? Hold on. You're killing my punchline, Christy. You're killing my punchline. Hold on.
I pre-punched. I'm sorry.
She pre-punched. Ah! Fuck. Do it again. I liked it. All right. I can see her laughing. Everyone thinks I'm just laughing at myself. Okay. Not funny. So I'm more worried about COVID-20, COVID-21, right? Whatever we call it. It's not the 20th. It's the year that it was found. Trying to give you as much accurate information as I can. Why is that a problem? Because right now we are fighting the flu. We are fighting COVID-19. Those are two viral infections. We don't have a vaccine for one of them. We do not want to have a vaccine for two of them. That is my focus. And that is not what the news is focused on. That's not what, like, I've heard no narrative on this. Like, I mean, none.
Can I tell you why?
Not fucking hard. I thought of this myself. I'm not evolutionary, scientifically super illiterate. It's just, oh yeah, no fucking duh. These mutate. That's why we don't have a vaccine for this one. Yeah. That's why we have tests that fail. It's because they are coronavirus tests.
Right. And why we need
a not COVID-19 tests. I'm sorry?
That's why we need a flu shot every year, every season, is because that flu has mutated. It's different now.
Yeah.
You need a vaccine for that. And so think about all the work that goes into that. And we have departments that are set up just for that, for the flu vaccine. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you why we don't have that right now. In 2018, President Trump abolished the White House Office on Pandemic Preparedness. So there was a whole bunch of people who were supposed to be getting ready for this event, and they got rid of them. They got rid of 80% of the funding for this entire, like,
it's probably fine.
Corner of science. Yes.
Nothing bad's going to happen.
And I got that from the New York Magazine from Gabrielle DiPendetti. I think that's her last name.
Now, look, before you go on, that was my punchline. It was just like, no, it's fine because Mike Pence doesn't even believe in evolution.
He's going to pray.
We're safe. They're going to pray it away on National Prayer Day. And God damn it. Fuck. That's one reason why we're so ill prepared. Now I will shut up and let Christy continue.
No, that's just why. That's why we got rid of it.
I pre-punched.
Yeah, I pre-punched. What can I say? It was too good. I had to. I couldn't control myself.
We both done it. We both.
The release happened too soon. Yeah, so we as a country, as a people, we decided to put a department into our government that does what all other developed nations who have a healthy working government do, is they set aside a funding for pandemics, for research. It's not about if, it's about when. And all scientists know this. They've never lied to us. They've always said, this is going to happen. The SARS happened and nobody was prepared for it. Since then, we upped our funding here. We put more scientists into it. There was this interviewing that went on underneath the last administration. Remember, we're not going to say his name. Under the last administration, that was there. They interviewed all these scientists to get a department whose sole purpose was pandemics, and when it happens, we need to be prepared. Not, it's not if, when. And so that's what it was. And who knows? I mean, we could be hyperbolic and black and white and say, well, the last administration did it, so that Cheeto McTweeto had to demolish it because it had his name on it. Maybe there's some in that. I think from the research I've done is that tax cuts do not pay for themselves. And when you give such a massive tax cut to people who do not need it, take that out of it. You just did a tax cut, whether people needed it or not. It's still a tax cut. That money that is not going to be coming in now gets to stay in the hands of people. Well, the government has a budget. And so where is that funding that was there, that is not, that was there all these years. So we planned things. Now it isn't going to be there. And so other things have to be moved around. Yes, there's waste everywhere. There's not a business on this planet that hasn't found waste. Like, it just is. You find it, you work through it, and you try to do it better this next time. But an office on pandemics is not waste. Gosh, I can't even say this surprised me. I remember when this was going on in 2018, and the news sources I was watching and reading, they all said the same thing. We just saw SARS happen. We just saw the H1, the bird flu happen. Why would you do this? This office was put in for that reason.
Yeah.
So I was like, my teeth are.
Why are you putting cotton in your mouth, Christy?
Let me tell you something. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but at the same time, are we going to be okay with this? And by not being okay with it, we have to speak up. We have to let people know who we are. A representative democracy. So me trying to call the top office is never going to work. But me calling my reps, my governors, my mayors, and letting them know, I should have done it more in 2018 when this was going on. I didn't have this show. There's so much work to do. There really, really is so much for regular people to get involved with. And as little as, here is something the government wants to get rid of, please speak up. I don't care if you're left or right, please speak up. We need to start doing maybe some drives like that as individuals, you guys watching, you guys listening. When you hear of something that is on the chopping block and you have a little bit of information about it, this is on the chopping block. The government wants to cut it out. I feel like that would be detrimental. You let people know that. You don't have to be a creep about it, like Joe Biden, lean over and smell someone's hair and then tell them about it. Probably not the best thing to do. But, your friends and your family, maybe tell them, hey, share that with the people that you're comfortable talking to about stuff like this. It's really important. I'll talk to anybody. So if I'm in the grocery store and I put headphones on so people won't talk to me, but they always do. I set my phone down while I'm, checking the groceries or whatever. And, oh, is that TYT you're watching? Or is Kyle Kalinske gets recognized a lot. A lot of times Bernie are a lot of rallies, so I watch them. And a lot of times it's the same speech of his, but the other people that are there, because he's all over the place, has been really inspiring. And it's nice when the person that's behind me in the line is like, oh, is that live right now? Where's he at? And it's just like, we had some bad stuff too. Stacy got called a commie at her work.
Why is that bad?
Well, the guy who called her a commie, he was buying condoms for his brother or nephew or a family member in Cuba. Well, Stacy and I know the facts that it's an embargo. We know that there are sanctions and new sanctions that were just put on by Trump. There are certain things that is very hard for countries to get when we do this type of warfare on them. And condoms are one of them. They don't have a rubber plant or a latex plant. It's not that they don't have them. It's just that there's price gouging and people are hoarding. So he was doing his family member a favor and buying them cheap here and sending them to him. And Stacy didn't say anything to him about anything except for, hey, sir, how are you doing? She's the manager at the CVS. So he says, gotta buy condoms for my family member. He's in Cuba. That's why no socialism. Bernie, blah, 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 blah. I mean, just went off. Stacy didn't say I support Bernie or I don't support it. She didn't say that. What she asked him a Socratic question. Like, well, is that exactly, I don't remember what it was. I remember thinking, good job, Stacy. And he was so pissed that his answer to that would have been like negating what he just said, if he was honest, that he yelled at her, screamed at her, walked away, got something, came back by and yelled at her on the way out that she's an effing commie. So she got home, she was like, girl,
Girl, let me tell
I'm
you
apparently
story.
a commie now.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, dude. How about, no, that's what it was. She asked him, she said, do you think it has anything to do with the embargo and the brand new sanctions that were put on Cuba? Have you looked into that?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. But, you know, if he were to answer, no, I didn't know that, that's not okay. And if he were to answer, no, it's not that, and she has, well, yes, it is, look at this. There was no, he couldn't answer it. So she's a commie. That's how that works out.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. It would be funny if it wasn't dead ass serious.
Right.
It's so funny. It's so funny. It's like, wow, his panties are so much in a bunch right now.
So let me.
Oh, I did have information about numbers for the coronavirus. I thought this was pretty interesting. Let me. My cat likes to walk all over everything right now, and so, okay. I thought it was interesting to know average medical costs for coronavirus treatment in the United States. And a CBC blood test for a non-insured or out-of-network starts at $36. But you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You need 11 things, possibly. 9 are definite, possibly the rest. The first one's 36 for out of, you know, and there is insured, a list for insured in network, but I know people in both categories. Both of them are still pretty steep, but the one without is the most steep. The next CMP blood test, which you have to have, is $58. Flu testing, a virus, A virus or B virus, there's two. One's $43 and the other one's $43. So right now you're looking at over $100, and you're not even done. Office outpatient visit for 15 minutes is $169 starting. 25 minutes is $222 starting. Office outpatient visit, same thing, but for 40 minutes is $327. So urgent care visit they have on here, which if you do the outpatient, then you don't need to do the urgent care. That's why I'm saying there's a couple that the urgent care visit starts at $239. An ER visit, if you are moderate severity of this, is going to start at $441. And that's with leaving that night. Like they test you positive, you have to go home. That's with leaving that night. That's not including anything else, plus all the tests above it. All those tests plus that visit cost.
And where are you getting all of those price numbers so everyone knows?
Insider.com.
Inside. Thank you.
You're welcome. ER visit high severity with threat, like you need to be quarantined, is $1,151 per day. And that's plus all the tests that need to be done. And then whatever else, any food that you have, all of that gets put on there. Every meal that you have gets put on there. A Band-Aid gets put on there, like $2. It's ridiculous. So, right. And these are all starting at prices. It's just, there's no way, like all three of us had to go get tested tomorrow. We'd have to be billed. Like we can't bring all that money. We cannot pay it tomorrow and pay the rest of our bills. Like that's just not
you just can't.
And that's how most people are.
Yeah.
So
with that, I know that Congress has been trying to pass some bills. Do you know if they've passed any of them yet for any relief? Because I know that they were talking about.
I know that they during the Senate, when what's her name had him in front of her telling him, you know, you need to make it free, the guy from CDC, that he has the power.
Oh yeah.
By law, get off me if you're gonna bite me, asshole. Ow. She bites hard.
I know who you're talking about. God damn, I can't remember her name either.
Yeah, I don't either. I wish I did right now, but I don't. She got him to admit. I will post it underneath this. I'll look for it after the video and put it underneath it because everyone should watch it. It is
Katie Porter.
Katie Porter. Watch the whole little clip it of her talking to him. It's so good. She's so strong. She is such a strong progressive. No bullshit. She's a regular person. She's one of us, you know, that was out there and was like, this is wrong. If no one's gonna, I guess I'll do it.
Yep. And someone let her slip through the cracks and actually represent us.
Yes, oops. She did. Well, she held his feet to the fire and got him to say yes, he would waive all of it for every American citizen. However, that is true. It did happen. She was very proud. She went and shared it afterwards. She shared the minutes, the words from that meeting with everyone. However, his department, his office, sent out a memo and then also made it on, you know, Twitter and everywhere else that is not exactly true.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as far as you know, they've knocked down all the bills so far, right? Nothing's actually been passed to
Nothing's actually been passed.
Okay. Right. So what they have been trying to pass, so everyone knows what I've been hearing, is one, that private insurance companies, along with Medicare and Medicaid, waive all fees that have to do with like coronavirus, like at all. And at first, the private insurance companies were like going for it, and then they're like, "Oh wait, hold on, we'll pay for the tests, but you guys got to pay for the treatment." That's like, So, just
there it is.
I'll wait for my point there. Another thing that they're trying to get passed is anything. Also to get like uninsured people to have those fees waived. Why? Why would we want to do that? Because it's in the public good, like interest.
The common good, yes.
The common good. It's good for everyone. If anyone who has it is, one, tested, so they can be quarantined. Two, they are treated. And three, they don't lose their fucking home over it. Right? Because we don't want that. Like, I don't care if you have to raise taxes a little bit for no one to lose their home over this, but also we don't need to raise taxes. I want to make that very, very clear for anyone who watches this, who is kind of a shithead from the right who doesn't want to listen.
The House did pass it. However, it's not going to get passed because it's not even going to get looked at.
Okay. Right. So for anyone who wants to take my words out of context, we don't need to raise taxes to pay for this. This is a pandemic. This is a national emergency. In the words of Trump directly after, 2 big words. I died a little inside. Like, yes, focus on the words. You read them, dead fish. Anyways. So this is a national emergency. And we don't fucking need this bloated military budget. We don't need people all over the goddamn world right now when every other country is focused on this like we should be. We don't need all that military funding right now. It just really doesn't make any sense. We don't need a lot of things right now when we're trying to focus on this. He just declared a national emergency. So we need to reallocate funds, right? We don't really need to raise any taxes over this. Like, I don't think anything we do is going to cost over $1 trillion to fix this. Because remember, we do not want COVID 20 or 21. We don't want that before we get a vaccine or at all. We don't want that. It's for the common good, right? For the human species, we want to beat this other species that's trying to fucking kill us. Or it's just trying to survive, which is survival kills us, right? So it's just for the common good. Now, do you mind if I continue on and start and I'll let Nacha know when to switch the thing, but do you mind if I just continue on and get into the next topic?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So don't switch it yet, Nacha. So what do we do?
What do we do for a Klondike bar?
God damn, if they just give everyone a Klondike bar and make us a little happier.
Oh, they're so delicious.
Well, before I tell you what I think we should do, let's look at what a few other countries have done. Because we're the greatest nation.
Sorry.
Right? So we should not be passing out tests that fail. And we shouldn't have a shortage on tests. And we shouldn't have a healthcare system that is so easily broken or overrun by this pandemic. Taiwan and or South Korea, one of them have drive-through test sites.
Yes, that's South Korea.
Yeah, I don't even know how that works, but they have that.
Well, okay, so you get in line and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So when you drive, there's a few doctors on the way, and then there's a computer system. So the first one, you don't have to enter your, fill out paperwork for the doctors. It's like name, all right, temperature. You don't have a temperature. The next guy, and the first one does the test, and it goes in the little thing or whatever. So by the time you get to the end, the last person, that is coming to a result. So you're about to leave this drive-through, and now you have a result. Is it positive or negative? If it's positive, you're told right then and there, and you didn't get out of your car. They're protected, so you're not around a whole bunch of people. You can just close your window and go home. If you're not, well, you carry on with your day. And they have them everywhere, and they're free for anyone who wants to go through them. You know why? Because they have healthcare for everyone.
They do.
They do. That's why
other countries
are so easy, because everyone's covered.
And those two countries I named are more authoritarian than our country. Yeah. And I am against authoritarianism. But just because I'm against authoritarianism doesn't mean it doesn't have its perks. Every fucking system has its perks. Every single one does. That doesn't mean they work better overall than ours, but we're doing something not as well as more authoritarian country.
I would like to think that the people that listen to LEAH and our friends are intelligent enough to understand, to be able to condemn one thing about a country that's wrong, and also give applause to something that they did absolutely wonderful for their people. It's okay to do that. It's so both of those things can be true, and you still be able to say, but the authoritarianism is wrong. And I can say that about a lot of countries, but those same countries, like Saudi Arabia, is a kingdom. It's a fucking monarchy. Not a constitutional monarchy like Britain, which still cracks me up, but a monarchy where he can say off with her head. It's crazy. That's wrong. That's 100% wrong. But you know what's fucking amazing in Saudi Arabia? Some of the architecture. I mean, it's just mind-blowing beautiful. Mm-hmm. But they're still wrong. It's okay to say those things. I think that everyone that listens to us can understand that.
I know our normal audiences, but I really want to get our viewers to start sharing this to more people that you are less comfortable sharing it with. I'm trying to do the same.
Make sure that they have humanistic leanings, though, at least. They're not total douchebags.
Right.
What I'm saying.
I'm trying to make this fair enough and digestible enough for anyone.
Yeah.
Right? I try to refrain from as much name calling as I can, or making fun of Trump as I can, because it's counterproductive if we want to grow our movement and grow our ideas. And especially on the right, they're all for this marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
So I want them to feel like they can listen to my ideas, and they're tolerable, they're digestible, because they are. They're not hard. And even if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. What's not fine to me, and I'm dead serious, is you saying my ideas just don't work, because they do. They do. Like, I will go down the list and be like, well, if it doesn't work, then we can change this. I've already thought all the way down, turtles all the way down, each turtle. Like, I know how to make a society work in my own mind. Like, my ideas work, they're consistent enough, and they're well thought out enough to where they can work. All right. So, like, don't be a dick, right? And I don't need to be a dick to anyone else on the right. Like, your ideas work for what you envision, right? We may have disagreements and be like, no, that society doesn't work for what I want. But that's just the difference. So I want better discourse. Anyways, moving on. The my notes. All right. Iran, I guess there's satellite pictures.
How far?
Huh? How far? Iran. Oh.
I was waiting for it.
You son of a gun.
I'll wait.
No, I guess there are satellite pictures
Yes.
of Iran with
Yes.
mass graves.
Yes. Yes.
And gotcha, sorry. Mass graves concerning
Yes.
the COVID-19.
Like watching old footage from, after any kind of plague, or
Yeah.
it
really,
really puts it right, and you have to acknowledge it. The flu does kill a lot of people, but the flu doesn't do that.
It does. So that's a thing. They're not dealing with it in the best way, obviously, but also we have to remember our sanctions.
Did you see the footage from them? Like,
I didn't see it.
Okay, there's footage about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
Where the head guy of Iran, can't remember his name, is standing right next to somebody, and that somebody is profusely sweating. And now he's doing a speech on a stage talking about how it's not a big deal. It is just like the flu, doing a Trump. It's fine. No worries. Go about your business. There's all kinds of things going on. Don't worry. We're going to keep those things, whatever they might have been, big gatherings of people. The guy behind him or right next to him, is wiping sweat off. You could tell he's like, and then he says a few words. And then the next day, when he says a few words, he says that the coronavirus is fine. It's not a big deal. If you feel like you're sick, no worries, stay hydrated, blah, 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 but you're fine. As he's about to pass out, he dies the next day from the coronavirus. He was standing right next to the leader doing this speech. Yeah, so they weren't taking it seriously at all.
No, and we've had people here, like there's a congressman, I can't remember his name.
There's a couple of them.
He's the one who wore the gas mask.
Yes.
And then I guess afterwards, on his way out, he touched like a bunch of reporters and journalists, like microphones and cameras, like, oh, being a dick.
Yeah, there's a basketball player that did that too.
And now he tested positive, and he came out and actually apologized and said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that I had this when I was doing that. I was very insensitive. Please let this be a lesson to everyone that this is not a fucking joke. I'm just like, it's not. Stop being a dick. You're supposed to be a leader. And I'm sick of people reading green eggs and ham and wearing fucking gas masks to Congress to make fun of moderate ideas that aren't even fucking left. It's so goddamn annoying. Anyways, Italy is a really sad situation right now, mostly because there have been over 800 deaths. At one point I heard over 1,000, but
yes, that's
what I'm seeing here is 800 at least. And there's been over 12,000 cases. That's a high death rate. You don't need to do the math to know that's a high death rate over in Italy. So they have just closed down their entire economy. Their whole country is closed down. Last I heard that I can confirm is that all shops, restaurants, bars are closed. Everyone needs to stay in, basically. The only thing that I heard that are open, but I haven't been able to confirm, are hospitals, grocery stores, and pharmacies. So 3 things that are still open. And like in Wuhan, as we mentioned last week, this is a way to stop the spread. This is a way to do it. It is an effective way to do it. I don't like it, but also if it's effective and we're dealing with an emergency, it's something you got to do. We just closed all the schools down here in Ohio for 3 weeks. New York, epicenter of many live productions, have no audiences in anything that they're doing. Really interesting late show thing.
Broadway, even.
Oh, Broadway, even. Yeah.
Broadway is shut down.
Yeah, it is. So this is really serious, and we're starting to take good steps. Like Italy is taking it seriously, but they're not. They're also not prepared.
They did it too late as well.
They did it too late, and
just like we're doing.
We are. So we can't do what they're doing, but we need to. All right. So we need to start closing things down and do more of what we're doing is closing down schools and large gatherings. Here in Ohio, we're not supposed to have like gatherings of more than 100 people. I think that's good. It's a real good step. But people can't do that. They have to go to work. They need their kids at school so they can go to work and put food on the table. That's why we need some kind of stimulus package. And there are 2 things specifically that I want to share. And this is where the transition starts. So we will start laying off the coronavirus as I get done with this part here. You can switch it whenever you want, Natcha. Bernie Sanders on Thursday, yesterday, called for a sweeping response. He wants like a Medicare for all type thing implemented so we can fucking deal with this. This is what we should have had in the first place. We don't need socialism. We need social safety nets so this doesn't happen. I will make this point and then move on with Bernie Sanders' plan to fight this. The point is...
I want to add something as soon as you're done.
Okay. The point is here that when we're kids and we're growing up and we're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor? These 3 public service things, right? One of those things isn't publicly funded. Is it because it's less important? One of these things is just like the other, right? We should publicly fund hospitals like we do doctors and firefighters. I'm sorry, not doctors, but like cops, firefighters. They should work for the people. This is a public service position. This is how politicians should be funded as well. And they are. But then they don't need any private money from anywhere. Public service jobs should be publicly funded, and they should be publicly funded well. So we are ready for emergencies where we need the police, firemen, women, doctors. These need to be well funded. We need these social safety nets to be ready for shit like this. And we need to fund science publicly, like we do in universities before we sell drugs that are made in universities to private companies. No, we need them publicly funded, and then we need public access. Not just public access, but we need a good public return on these drugs and other things that we come up with science. Like, we fund it, we should reap the benefits. leaning more towards socialism. I'm sorry, but it makes sense. We pay for it with our taxes. We need the return. Just like, now moving on, we need the rest. We need this free healthcare concerning this, at least concerning this. We need funding for paid leave. And we need an immediate moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. No one needs to lose their home over this. The government needs to pay for this. We need to pay for this. People that we need to tax more need to pay for this. We have the money to take care of this. We don't need to watch the stock market crash.
Right.
We don't need that like safety precaution where it had to happen twice this week, where we stopped trading in the stock market. We don't need that safety net. We need the safety net to know that when a pandemic like this hits our country, our economy, oh shit, this is bad. We need to quarantine. We need to take care of this. And then we know this is all going to be okay in 3 months. We don't need to freak out and crash the economy. We crash the economy because we don't have a fucking plan. We don't have enough social safety net. We are freaking out because we're ill prepared. If we prepare ahead of time, this shit doesn't need to happen.
Right.
All right, Christy, go ahead. Add on.
Yes, exactly. We have a beautiful socialism at the top. We have wealthy welfare. I know. We have wealthy welfare kings and queens. 1.5 trillion overnight. They said, we're going to need it. And they said, here it is, 1.5 trillion to be handed into Wall Street to prop up the market.
Big bank bailout.
Right. It's a bailout. Over like 1.5 trillion to eliminate all school debt and pay for colleges. Isn't that 1.7 trillion? Or no, to eliminate all the student debt, all of it is 1.7 trillion to help the people. And we got to beg and probably not get it. They said we maybe 1.5, just a little 1.5 trillion. And they're like, let's go print it up and handed it to them. Right now, the Trump administration is trying to figure out, the gas industry, liquid, all of it, all the fossil fuel industries, on how they can, bail them out and help them out. And I think that it's wonderful to say, just to take the two parties out of it. Party A sees Party B is about to be in a bad situation. Well, not necessarily bad. They're pretty good off, but they're going to take a hit and it's going to suck for a little while. And you're like, God, that's my buddy. I want to help. I love that solidarity, but it should be for all of us, not just these like above the law conglomerate machines. That's gross. I don't buy it, is what I wanted to say at all. They just decided 1.5 trillion and they printed it up and gave it to them. So remember that when they said, who's going to pay for it? We didn't even talk about this as a country. We didn't even discuss it. It just happened.
How about just fucking do it?
Yeah, they just did it. And then but who's going to pay for it? All of us. Mm-hmm. All of us. That's not okay. People, wake up. And then I want to say the result for best financial performances in years has been ExxonMobil, who is probably going to get help. They reported 20.8 billion in earnings, up modestly from 19.7 billion in 2017. BP, another one, earned 12.7 billion, more than double the 6.2 billion from a year earlier. Chevron earned 14.8 billion, up from 15.7 billion the prior year. Total SA earned 13.6 billion, a 28% increase from the 10.6 billion earned in 2017. So these people, these corporations are going to get help because of an unforeseen pandemic, an unforeseen, really horrible thing that happens, and we need to be prepared for it because it does happen. Not take the funding away from these offices. We need to be prepared for it. But also on top of that, remember, they just gave them 1.5 trillion. And now they're going to do to all of these corporations, Exxon, BP, all of them are probably going to get help. They just reported their best year. And they got that billion, one, I don't remember which one, it was probably Exxon or BP, one of the top ones, got like a $44 billion increase in 4 years from the tax cuts, or 3 years from the tax, the first, session of Trump being president, they got $44 billion tax cuts that they didn't have to pay in taxes. Think about $44 billion from just one corporation going into the country, how much good that could do, how much we could expand what the elderly were able to cover. They could get, glasses and LASIK surgery so that they could see, all of the things that are normal in all other developed countries. All other developed countries think it's absurd that we would rather find our own way or call an Uber to get to the hospital than take an ambulance when the ambulance is already at the scene of the accident because we can't afford it. And they're right, it is absurd. Healthcare should not be a profit industry. It's okay to work in the industry as a career and make your living there. It's not okay for the industry to have overlords whose sole purpose is to deny things so that they can make a payday. Insurance companies, I think they should be illegal. I don't think that it's okay for them. And the more I learn about the industry, the more strongly I feel that how can it be moral if your sole purpose is to deny people? That's their sole purpose. They set up algorithms so when people make a claim that they find anything to deny. And even though people will sign into an insurance company, and when they did, they had questions like, will this be covered? Will that be covered? They said yes. You have it in writing that you both signed that says they will cover it. They can still, by law, deny you. It is up to them, and they're going to deny you the first time if they can get away with it. So that, you'll pay another month and another month and another month still in before they cover you. By then, maybe you've paid for 5 years and you've only done your regular checkups. So they could definitely afford it. Plus all of the others that are paying in every single month. I don't think that it's moral. I don't. And I don't trust a corporation. There are groups out there, community groups that, create their own insurance. And I think that's great. And still, why can't we all have an insurance that is respectable, that is affordable, that you pay through your taxes at the end of the year, like every single other modern nation? I just don't see how we haven't revolted and put our foot down and said, no, you're not going to do this to people anymore. If we take you out of the whole thing, you've made billions, do something else now, because this is wrong and we've caught on to your scheme. It's a scheme. That's why they've been outlawed in other countries, because other governments said, no, we're not going to let you do that to our citizens. Even the ones that do have the national system plus private insurance on top of it, they do not let those private insurances hurt people or deny people because you're covered through your government. So it just keeps everybody more honest, and healthcare should be obviously a right. Of course, healthcare is a right, but it should be like its purpose. Healthcare's purpose should be to take care of humans' health. That's it. And people should get paid nicely if they're in healthcare. But I don't think that. So when I say I don't think healthcare, it should be a profit industry. I'm sure that our regular viewers do understand what I'm saying. Doctors, of course, should get paid. Nurses, of course, should get paid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it shouldn't be a way for third parties to get in between a patient and their healthcare. I do not think the only thing that should be a universal system where everyone is treated as, a citizen. You're a citizen of this group insurance that all 327 million of us signed in on. So we're all covered. There's no in-networks because it's all the network. You don't have to worry. It's all the network. Everyone's in the network because there's one network. And, the best dental and the best vision. And who knows, I think that if we were to do a healthcare system, a single payer healthcare system, I think that it might even be a way for USA to like be number one at something. If all other nations are doing it, we have we're in a nice to look out and see what really works and what has kind of, not held up to its, go through all of them and choose the best of the best and then implement them here and kick everyone's asses in it. Like, come on. Don't you guys want to be number one at something? Like healthcare, right? Me too. I think that would be awesome. All the nurses, when all the clients, I had so many clients that were nurses, they all felt the same way. Healthcare should be for everyone. They have friends that are nurses in Canada or nurses in Australia, and they're just like, girl, my gosh, they just can't believe that. To them, it feels like an illegal system. Like someone needs to step in and stop the crime. So here's that. That's my church lady.
There is that.
Satan.
Okay.
I love that lady.
So next. Well, no, not next. Don't change it. Don't change it. All right. So for this progressive path now, I had another part of the segment here. And this one's short because it really bleeds right into it. Tulsi Gabbard has been a really clear, good voice this week. If you haven't kept up on her, you really missed a good week for her, like where she's really shining. She's probably not getting any growth out of it, but she's saying the right things. She has good ideas, and she's being very prominent. Everyone should pay more attention to her in the coming weeks because she has a plan for the coronavirus as well. As I said, this is a segue. Do you know what her plan for the coronavirus is? No? It is, and this doesn't make me angry. What's connected to this makes me angry. It is UBI.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. That's a decent fucking idea. Not only like will it help pay for anyone who needs testing or treatment, it'll help with that. It's not the best. We need more than that, right? But if anyone has to quarantine or can't go to work for a while, that $1,000 a month is really going to fucking help a lot of people. And that's just a fantastic idea. So that doesn't upset me. What does upset me, and has for the past couple of weeks now, but more than ever now, is Andrew Yang never endorsed her. Should he endorse her? Like, is it really going to make a difference?
I'm so grossed out with him these days.
I know.
Sell out, little punk.
I know. He said he would endorse the candidate who picked up his UBI.
Right.
So he should. He should have done it right away. Everyone was hoping he'll just endorse Bernie because he'll pick it up, but he hasn't. Bernie didn't. I'd like it Bernie did, but he didn't. Tulsi did. He should keep his word and back her up. And she's even pushing this now as a solution. That's a good idea. It really is. And he just endorsed Biden.
Mm-hmm.
He just endorsed Biden. Cory Booker endorsed Biden. Kamala Harris endorsed Biden. We know that Buttigieg and Klobuchar did.
It just makes me make weird sounds like,
Did Julian Castro also? Did Julian Castro?
Yeah, it's just gross.
It's fucking disgusting.
Kissing the ring.
So this is going to be a build-up. This is where Mac vents. Okay, sorry. And we just heard from Elizabeth Warren surrogates who wanted to be like under the radar or whatever, that she's not going to endorse Bernie, at least before the primaries. So she's going to pull a 2016. Good for fucking her.
She's weak.
So part of my spiel here at the end of it was just going to be fuck Elizabeth Warren and fuck Andrew Yang. I really liked Yang, and Warren I could have dealt with. Yeah.
She could have done the right thing. It would have been redemption for so many people. Because believe it or not, they do have to work together.
They do.
No matter what, they still got to go work together. So, I mean, you got to be the adult.
So here's my rant. Do you mind if I rant a little bit?
Rant it.
Okay. I want everyone to bear with me because I know I'm going to get a lot of people to disagree with me right now. And I'm excited for it because I want to know what people's responses are to this rant here. Elizabeth Warren isn't going to endorse Bernie Sanders. Andrew Yang hasn't. Everyone's endorsed the opposite, except Elizabeth Warren, which she probably will if he gets the nomination. Like, she'll hop right on that train. Tulsi's still in the race. I don't think she's going to win, but I'm glad she's still in the race now. I know last week I didn't know why she's still in the race. Now she's just a really, really good example. And she was then too. She is the embodiment of what the ID poll Democrats focus on. She is a woman of color. We need a woman in the White House. It's time for a woman in the White House, right? We say that all the time, or we hear that all the time. I'm sorry. She's still in the race, and everyone's ignoring her. If they're not ignoring her, they're completely like writing her off, or just barely mentioning that she's still in the race. Honestly, if there was a way to if Bernie could just give her all the delegates, she would beat the fuck out of Biden right now. She could make the debate stage. She'd wipe the fucking floor with him. She'd probably win by a landslide. That's not my point. My point is, seeing how they're treating Tulsi Gabbard right now, who is they? I will answer this now. It is the establishment, which is the DNC, delegates, superdelegates, people in power who make decisions, not the voters, and the media who ignore her and smear Bernie relentlessly without mentioning any of Biden's downfalls, or at least not in any fair way that's like comparable to how they smear Bernie. I'm sick of it. I already said last week, I'm like, I want to get rid of the DNC, like no matter what the fuck happens. It's not enough, guys. It's really not. We may lose this election. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Bernie. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if it's Biden versus Trump. Like, we'd still lose either way. We would have 80% at least the same government with just a happier face on it. And last time, Cenk Uygur said, we will support Hillary Clinton and we will get her in office. And then first day she's in office, we will fight her. For what? For fucking what? So in 4 years, we can just not try to push a progressive candidate to kick her out of office? No, because that would be not voting blue no matter who. No, she's the incumbent. We keep her in for 8 years. That's what we do. And then whoever she wants to endorse on the way in, we should probably support. Like, it never fucking ends. It will never end. If we get Biden in and we fight him, well, then we're just the enemy again. The progressive part of the party is just the enemy again.
Right.
Doesn't matter if we help get him elected.
It's funny because the base of the Republican Party gets whatever they want from the Republican Party. The base of the Democratic Party is like that thorn in their side. They're like, God damn it, we don't want to be honest.
No, we don't.
You're always trying to make us be moral.
They're moderates. They're not leftists.
Yeah.
So this is not a Bernie or bust rant or speech.
Right.
This is an agenda or bust speech or rant, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to be the stick in the mud now. I'll be the Twitter punching bag for a while. I will vote third party. I hope Bernie or Tulsi will take a third party, or both. That would be fucking amazing. Or anyone who gets close to the agenda that I want. If it's Biden taking Bernie as the VP, I'll vote for him. Or someone just like him. But if they're going to pull another, Tom, whatever, I don't remember who she picked last time.
Exactly.
Yeah, just another fucking Republican. No, I don't care, because I don't want to support someone and then fight them when they get in office. For one, that reason. For two, I don't want it on my voting record. I didn't vote for Hillary last time, and I don't regret it.
Right. I did.
The only thing, yeah, see?
Right.
The only thing that I really do regret is being on Mr. Atheist channel and him cornering me and making me say that I would vote Hillary next time. I regret that. And I love Jimmy. I hate him painting me in that corner. And I didn't know enough about politics at the time. And saying that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a blue no matter who kind of guy.
He is. And that's fine. You can do that. Except I'm not for it.
Listen, I live in a swing state. It is not a luxury for me. I can't make that protest vote. And I learned that lesson last time. I live in a swing state. The whole state, there's no way that Hillary was going to win. It just wasn't. And I should have known that, because I knew that and voted my heart. And my heart was not Hillary. It was Jill Stein as far as what I was offered. Yeah. And I really, really liked a lot of the things that, I would have rather had a humanist in the White House than the other that was offered. Someone who's smart, someone who not only understands science, but can communicate it, a doctor. But I was too scared. Stacey was 100% like, I cannot, she has had bigotry aimed at her from not just people that she didn't know, people that she knew. And she just saw this very bigoted, homophobic president, and it, was very fearful for her. And so I was like, okay, you're right. I'll at least try. And I won't do that ever again. I will vote honestly. And what I learned from that, and why I do regret it, is because every election has data. And when everything's said and done and all the chips have fallen to the ground and all the numbers have come in, then analysis starts happening. And with that analysis, we find out a lot of things that, hey, there's a huge subset of people over here that really identified with Jill Stein. Maybe we should start, we can push more progressive things over here with their help, but they won't know that if we don't vote our heart. If we don't vote, that sounds all wooey, but it's really important, I think, to me. I understand the person who lives in a swing state and doesn't want to take that chance, and it's a purple state. I get it. But I live in Florida, and I would rather them know that there are anti-establishment people. Like, I am anti-establishment. I don't want status quo. And that won't be represented if I don't let people know that that's what I stand for. So there's that. There's my rant.
And I'm glad we're on the same page there. I didn't get to talk to you about this before this. So that's
data
comforting.
alone. Yeah, for the data alone, vote your heart.
Yeah, you should. And if that means you have to vote third party, Maya just said down in the chat, she said that usually vote third party, but a protest vote is a vote for Trump. That's a myth.
Yeah, a Biden vote is a vote for Trump.
Yes.
Trump is
both.
Biden's not. He's gonna get.
Right.
Trump's gonna eat him alive.
A protest vote is a vote for whichever candidate that person you are talking to doesn't like.
Pretty much.
It happened every person I talked to at my store last time around. I was like, oh, that's a vote for Hillary. Oh, that's a vote for Trump. Yeah, it's a vote against both of them. It's one vote that they don't have. Would you rather me stay home and not vote? Okay, so would you like to just take my vote and vote for me? If that doesn't fucking sink into anyone you're talking to, they're kind of not worth talking to. Honestly, if you can just say, fine, will you just vote for me? Can I have my own vote, please? Because that's the only power we have against the people who are supposed to represent us. Can I have my own vote, please? Vote third party. If you agree with me on any level of this, change the fucking narrative. Don't say, well, yeah, I agree with you, but we'd never get it through. You are fighting against your own, your own cause.
The exit polls, they love Medicare for all. They love abolishing debt. They love, but their electability, where do you think they heard electability from? CNN and MSNBC, because I can guarantee to you, like 4 years ago, these people didn't use that word in their everyday conversations. Right. They say it because they hear, excuse me, they hear all day long. He's not electable. He doesn't have that electability. The fuck does that mean? If what this person's policies are all the things you stand for, that's electability. If it has a movement and people excited about him, that's electability. What they don't want is somebody who is not going to kiss their ass and is going to make it so that it's a little bit more fair for everyone. And unfortunately, to the very privileged in this country, and I'm sure many others, equality to them feels like suppression. They feel like they have anxiety about this impending suppression that's going to come towards them because, you can watch interviews in the street with people who are in Trump rallies or more conservative, and they're not politically literate. They don't have media literacy. They get their information from places that are not giving them, they're not an informed electorate. And when you ask them, how do they feel about, gays being able to marry? No, I'm not okay with that. Well, why is it that you don't? For what reason? And they will say because they want more. Like they already have enough. They want more. And Jordan Klepper, funny comedian, he asked, his reply was, you mean they want equal, the same as you? And she was like, yeah. Like they had never thought of it like that. And then when they do, you could tell she was real uncomfortable with that. And that's where we need to have them. We need to have them in that uncomfortable. What you just said was bigoted as fuck. Now, that doesn't mean you are. Obviously, you were uncomfortable with it because you had never thought of it like that. It's still super bigoted. However, you are not. So let's fix that. Let's become more informed. And you could see that uncomfortability. That's really funny. It's on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, but it's not his segment. It's the Klepper goes to Trump rally segment. There's like 4 or 5 of them. They're so good. They're so juicy. You just want to be like, oh man, you really need to be sat down and like we need to start at the beginning.
This is how you fix that though. Right? We can't just this is how you fix that.
Right.
It is you fucking vote third party.
Yes.
We need at least a 3-party system. If you agree with this part as well, we have a 2-party system and that fucking sucks. If not, when? Right? We need a 3rd-party system fucking yesterday. We don't need it after we get Bernie in office. We need it well before we get Bernie in office. We need a 3rd party to hit back at the 2 right-wing fucking parties that we have.
Ding,
we
ding,
need
ding,
money
ding.
out of politics.
100%.
We need this. And the population agree. Everyone fucking agrees that they don't like the representatives we have. They don't trust Congress. No one likes Nancy Pelosi. Right? Chuck Schumer.
Well, there are people that like her.
There are.
There are a lot of people that like her, but all they know about her is that she's this trailblazing, one of the first women of Congress, which is true.
And she hates Trump.
Their knowledge, and she helped get ACA through with Obama. She's this like choo-choo train that just chugs through and gets things passed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the she's passing. You make it throw up.
Nothing and awful things.
Some war stuff and some funding of war stuff and some stuff.
Elizabeth Warren too.
Saudi Arabia stuff. And
Elizabeth Warren too. Again, for both of those.
Most of them, that's why we have to stop the duopoly. Our founding fathers were scared of a dual 2-party system. And their letters back, they could see that it would get pretty tribal. Having 2 parties against each other, and then it would be trying to outdo each other, which would move them further and further.
Right. And I'm not trying to undermine you in any ways, but everyone knows that. You don't have to say that. And I only say that because everyone knows that. We are feeding our own point. You said it, which I'm glad you did, but you don't need to. Everyone fucking knows it. So stop feeding the 2-party system. Like, this is common sense. We don't need to fight about this. We need to just tell everyone who wants to fight us on it, you're being dumb. You already agree with me.
Probably
already agree with me.
Right.
Get rid of stop voting blue no matter who. Get a 3rd party in there. We need to coalesce around one party that's not Democrat or Republican.
Sell out the people to the corporate world every single time.
Yeah. We have a way higher chance of getting a 3rd-party president than we do a Bernie Sanders president at this point. Because we have the Hill. They're rising party. Right now, showing that there's a populist party.
Yeah.
A Labor Party, yeah.
A Labor Party. Oh, that would be
make
my heart tingle with patriotism.
Yeah, but people were doing that hashtag #DemExit thing, and a lot of even leftists were upset about it. Like, that's our fucking way in. We can't do this. We need to coalesce. No, we don't need to coalesce with the party who will constantly kick us down, smear the leader of the progressive movement, and ignore someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who can actually work across party lines and still get all the populist stuff that we want. End the war, have better social safety nets, and get money out of fucking politics. She will do that. She is right-wing on many issues, but she is left-wing or just common sense enough on enough of them to do what people want. She would be the most fucking loved president. And I disagree with a quarter of her mentality on things.
The military-industrial complex will never, ever let her have control over them.
The 2 parties we have now will take care. Will make sure of that.
Right. Oh yeah, they will make sure of that. As of right now, she works for them. She has to follow orders. She is a part of the military. That suits them just fine. She's great at her job. She's loyal. She's a patriot. She's amazing. But to them, she's way too radical on peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no money in that.
Yeah.
You know, there are many poor countries around the world, and unfortunately they happen to be poor and black and brown countries around the world, and their lands that they reside on are full of untold riches of elements and resources and water, and I mean just beautiful. And you know, if we can keep them a little chaotic, if we can make sure their governments you know, never really work for the people, that it's okay if they have dictators. Actually, our government kind of prefers that, because then they're already corrupt. Obviously, they're a dictator. So we can control them by offering them, we're the most powerful country in the world. Of course, they're going to do our bidding. You know, we can keep them in power. We can make sure that those lowly peasants don't bother them. And never going to change with two pro-war parties. We need an anti-war party and a pro-workers party. We need a pro-workers, anti-war party. So bad.
And we're going to lose Bernie Sanders soon. We're going to lose Tulsi Gabbard soon. And you don't agree with 3/4 of what Tulsi Gabbard has to say. She's our anti-war person right now. She's really the only one we have. Besides Bernie Sanders, he's not strong enough on it. And he's old. He could make it through this presidency.
We have a few people that are anti-war, but not enough. They're the minority.
Most of the Justice Democrats who've had their primaries already didn't make it through.
I know.
We haven't talked about that yet. We're losing representation. We need to get representation. This, again, comes to, if not now, when? Because, again, if we get Joe Biden in there, the DNC and anyone on that side of the aisle can just keep us from getting a more progressive candidate for the rest of our generation. They can fucking do that. They can leave us out if they have someone in.
Oh, they're terrified of it.
They are. And I honestly, and I know I'm going to upset people with this, but I feel I have good reason. I would rather have Trump than Biden at this point, because if we have Trump in there, it's only 4 more years. We will lose a lot, but we'll keep the fire fucking burning. If we get Biden, we'll start to feel safe. We'll lose half of our fighters.
There's that.
And we have 8 years. And they could fucking block the progressive movement for good.
Think about this, though. Supreme Court justice seats.
I know. I have. And I agree.
Yeah, that's like making the court, oh, God, stacked conservative for a lifetime.
I know. But we could get very close to the same with Biden. Like, if we lose Roe v. Wade, we still have states to fight on it, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's hard, but right now I'm
so fucking mad at the Democratic Party. They fucked it up for generations. Listen, 77% of people 40 years old or under voted for Bernie Sanders. 77%. So that is a whole massive generation that is progressive, and it's going to move. Unfortunately, old people vote every single time. Republicans, conservatives, they vote every single time. So even though conservatives make up 26 to 27% of our nation, they vote every single time. And if our country total numbers is 48%, 49%, 51% of the whole country, and 27% of are conservatives, and a few independents vote that way, they're going to win every time. We got to get out. Oh, it's so frustrating that if people had to vote, we would win every election. It's that they're too busy, that they can't, I've seen so many people underneath videos about the lines for the primaries that said, my daughter couldn't vote. She couldn't. She had to work and she couldn't take time off. And her friends were saying, they were in line for 3 or 4 hours. Other people were in line for 5 and 6 hours. If you work 2 jobs, like doubles, how would you do that? You're going to lose one of your jobs. So it's just, we're
Bernie
in a country.
Have plans to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. And
Biden doesn't.
Those things won't be fixed under Biden. A lot of these things are co-signed by the Democrats. Gerrymandering is co-signed by the Democrats because they do it too. Not as bad, but they still do it. So I don't care if you do it just a little bit. I only rape a little bit.
Right.
Right.
No, it's
right. Come on.
So this is my last say on this.
Yeah.
Besides if not now, when. It's not my fault. We're not blaming voters when we say the establishment is working against.
No.
Don't blame me when Trump gets reelected. I know I just said I would rather have Trump than Biden, just because of the fire that it would keep under people. That's why. But I'm not voting for Trump. I will not vote for Biden unless he has a real progressive vice president. And I'm not voting for Trump.
Right.
Do not blame me. I get my vote. If you don't like my vote, you don't think I should do that, why don't you just vote for me? I obviously don't deserve to vote. Yeah. Right? We all have the right to vote.
I want everyone
to vote. You can vote blue no matter who if you want to. Right. I will probably vote down the ticket blue. But that's hardly good enough anymore. Even.
Right.
We need to stop this two-party system almost more than we need to defeat Trump.
Do you think that the Democratic Party, the DCCC, the DNC, do you think that they will even think about making things better, fixing their corruption if everyone votes blue no matter who? Do you? Of course not. Do you? Because I have a few bridges I would like to sell you. But if people don't do what they're trying to coerce us to do, and it's enough where they're like, fuck, we're never going to win again unless we listen to our goddamn base. Well,
it's really funny that we keep coalescing under the party that says fall in line. That same party that we're trying to beat or flip. I'm sorry, but I have to agree with Jimmy Dore more than anyone on this topic.
Pretty funny.
Because he gets kind of radical sometimes and he gets one-track minded, but goddamn, he's always right on this one. They always fuck us. And we just bend over and let them, because they tell you, bend over and let us fuck you. We only rape a little bit.
Right.
So
how is that okay? I'm a rapist. I only rape a little bit. Both of you need to go to jail. You're both.
Both of you. Goddamn. So I'm done with it. I'm sick of it. I really want Bernie to come back. I really want him to hit Biden hard on Sunday, because I do not want to fight the fight that I just
wrote in Bernie.
That would be amazing. we just need everyone to do it. We need Jimmy, who's going to say vote blue no matter who, to vote for Bernie. Write him in or go under a different party. We need everyone who says, sorry, we just have to coalesce under the Democratic Party to beat Trump.
I have a lot to think about before I just a lot to think about. I think about kids in cages.
Yes. And you're right. And I've thought of that too. I thought of that too before I said the Trump thing, because if we get Biden in, sure, we will see a picture of 15 of those kids out. Biden built those fucking cages. Yeah, they'll still be in cages. We just won't hear about it as much. And then we won't fight for them, and then we'll get more than we had anyways. It's disgusting. And I don't want to vote for Biden, who built the cages, who will just let it keep happening. Right? It's just, it's inconsistent as fuck. I'd rather be consistent. and lose than inconsistent and kind of win sometimes. That's me. And if you disagree, that's fine. Not mad at you. I would just hope that if you want to get this progressive agenda or any part of it, that you can see that where I'm coming from is a good place and that I need your help to vote out the two-party system. So then we have some kind of power representation for populist ideas. That is so goddamn important. And I look forward to reading comments. Love you guys. Thank you for letting me rant and rage as I have all week. Do you still want to do your liberation theory tonight?
Yeah.
All right. We are ready. Next topic.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so make that big enough for my eyeballs. All right. Liberation theology has been described as an interpretation of Christian faith out of the experience of the poor, an attempt to read the Bible and key Christian doctrines with the eyes of the poor, or the message of the Gospels restored from the first 3 centuries. It was a pacifist religion of the poor. Detractors have called it Christianized Marxism. So no wonder when I was like, what is this about? I'm like, so cute. It's like so wonderful.
You have my attention.
Yeah, right? The best known form of liberation theology is that which developed in Latin America in the 1950s. However, various other forms of liberation theology have since developed, including Asian, Black liberation, and Palestinian liberation theologies. This is also what Martin Luther King Jr. was a part of. So, I mean, in the 1950s in Latin America, and the late 1950s and 1960s here in the South and Alabama with MLK. And although liberation theology has grown into an international and interdenominational movement, it began as a movement within the Catholic Church in Latin America in the 1950s and 1960s. Liberation theology arose principally as a moral reaction to the poverty and social injustice in the region. The term was coined in 1971 by the Peruvian priest Gustavo Gutierrez, who wrote one of the movement's defining books, A Theology of Liberation. Other noted exponents include Oscar Romero El Salvador, which I'll be covering a little bit more in depth because I am so impressed by this man. Leonardo Boff of Brazil, John Sobrino of Spain, Juan Luis Seguno of Uruguay, and Dr. Martin Luther King of USA. That's pretty awesome. Latin American liberation theology met opposition in the USA. Go figure, they want to help the poor. But we have prosperity gospel here. So look at the pendulum, just it went from helping the poor to God only loves us if we're rich. So it met opposition in the United States, which accused liberation theology of using Marxist concepts and led to the admonishment by the Vatican's Congression for the Doctrine of Faith, the CDF, in 1984 and 1986, Ronald Reagan's time. The Vatican rejected certain forms of Latin American liberation theology for focusing on institutionalized or systemic sin or immoral, and for identifying Catholic Church hierarchy in South America as members of the same privileged class that had long been oppressing the indigenous populations from arrival of Pizarro and onward. So this theology was kind of born when Central and South America had a lot of dictators. And you're looking at America being a big part, our CIA being a big part of overthrowing these governments, even when they had democratically elected.
No.
Right. Yes. And so there were so many people that just were effing sick of it. They're like, I go to church every week. At the time, this is, I'm a good person. I do what I'm supposed to do. And I'm telling my church, like, how is this okay? And they're telling us kind of like, be neutral. It's, you got to follow the law. And because the church and the government were, like this, they helped each other out. Well, it would be really, really brave and radical to go against that. And that's exactly what liberation theology did. It brought back, like I had mentioned, the 3rd century, texts that were very helping the poor, giving away all your money, more of a like Jesus is a communist kind of way. Well, that made me interested, and I started reading about different people in liberation theology. And this particular person, he ended up being the archbishop. He's so interesting. So I thought I would share some of the stuff that I thought was just so freaking cool about liberation theology and this particular religious person's story, and why I am for liberation theology. I think that I could get behind it as me, an atheist, secular humanist. I wouldn't have to change anything, be a part of anything. It's about solidarity with my brothers and sisters, no matter what their beliefs are, because that has nothing to do with what we're here to do. It's about fighting for human rights and dignity and equality and equity and the common good. It's fucking beautiful. It is exactly what MLK was preaching about. And it's exactly what Bernie Sanders is preaching about, and Dr. Cornel West and Richard Wolff. And I when someone said, is there any religion, that some people say Jainism, some people, say Odin's cool. I say liberation theology now, which is totally weird to say. Let me tell you why. In the 1960s and 70s, El Salvador was ruled by a military dictatorship that controlled its people with intimidation and violence. For most of this period, the bishops of the Catholic Church gave unconstitutional support, unconditional, smoke another one, Christy. They gave unconditional support to the ruling dictatorship. In March 1977, Archbishop Oscar Romero began to speak out against the government-sanctioned violence. Now, he was kind of a conservative priest at that time, so this is kind of awesome. Let's see what he did. Let's see what he did, kids. His leadership of El Salvadorian Catholics shifted the Salvadorian church from a policy of supporting the dictatorship to a focus of defending the poor and marginalized. Romero's legacy for supporting human rights and social justice lives on, even today. Background. In the 1960s and the 1970s, the vast majority of El Salvadorians lived in abject poverty. More than 95% of the country's wealth was controlled by less than 2% of the population. The country was ruled by a cruel military dictatorship that enacted many policies to perpetuate the privilege of the upper classes and suppress any dissent whatsoever through brutal violence. This period was marked by escalating bloodshed and instability. Left-wing groups supporting the suppressed peoples of El Salvador rallied against the right-wing government. In response, security forces and death squads supported by the government of El Salvador and funded via the USA's CIA assassinated and tortured, disappeared unionists and labor organizers and protesters. The hierarchy of the Catholic Church gave support to the government by refusing to condemn the dictatorship and its actions of violence. And by preaching acceptance of the social order, just fall in line, know your place. That itself was acceptance, I think, in my eyes. Many of the Salvadorian bishops came from the upper classes, and they felt that there was no reason to involve the church in a conflict between the government and the people. I mean, why would you even bother? That's those silly peasants. There's no reason to get the church involved. The church was aligned with And the church was aligned with the aims and methods of the ruling families of El Salvador. So the ruling families kind of said what to do, and the church did their bidding. Individual Jesuits and priests supported the poor and left-wing dissenters, but their efforts lacked coordination and support and were mostly in vain. They never stopped. They come in a little bit. The Archbishop at the time of San Salvador, the country's highest-ranking clergyman, approved the creation of a government censorship office, condemning all critics as communists. So the Archbishop sets up this, it's a government censorship office. If you are a dissenter, if you disagree out loud, you're a communist, and now there's a target on you. That's scary. It's scary. I don't want it. That's my cry face. All right. So, and then I have escalating tensions, because that was just the beginning. Oscar Romero was a quiet, bookish priest from the rural South. Because of his conservative politics and background, his appointment was welcomed by the ruling class and the dictatorship alike. Violence escalated across the country, driving the first few weeks of Romero's time as archbishop. In February 1977, protesters gathered in San Salvador to protest election fraud and voter intimidation. They got pissed. They knew it was wrong. You have people bullying people so that they couldn't go vote. And then you have voter fraud. Like, that's not who the people voted for, and they knew it, so they weren't going to stand for it. Security forces opened fire on the crowd, killing at least 1,500 civilians. The military declared a state of siege and suspended civil liberties, as dictatorships do. Government-sanctioned death squads, funded by the U.S., killed hundreds and hundreds in the countryside. They weren't even in the protest. So there's a lot to the story, and I don't have time to cover all of it. I implore you to look into Romero. He's amazing. Oscar Romero is a pretty cool dude. If he made bad decisions throughout his life, like we all do, I feel like he was the type of person that learned from them and genuinely tried to do it better the next time. I really do. I'm pretty impressed by him. Despite the increasing levels of violence, Romero maintained the church's silence. See, that's a mistake. Then, on March 12th, 1977, government soldiers ambushed a labor organizer, one of Ramon's closest friends, as he traveled to Mass. Well, they gunned down the priest and his escort. These slayings had a profound effect on the Archbishop Romero. And as I've mentioned many times on the show, and probably will throughout my life, I feel like the more conservative someone is, the more doubly down, when they just double down and they know things are right without that type of person. I feel like they're the type of person where, no, I don't like that gay shit, and then one of their children comes out as gay, and they profoundly changed for all the right reasons, and that's wonderful, and yes, I applaud you. I'm glad you did. But there are others who don't need to have that happen to their life to empathize. They just can empathize. And so I feel like maybe that was something that totally changed when his friend died, was now he was like, ouch, okay, this is what all of the people I represent are feeling right now. Is everyone I talk to has lost a loved one to this dictatorship, and now I have too, a close one of his best friends. While standing over his friend's lifeless body that night, forced to personally confront the dictatorship's brutality face to face, Romero chose to take action. He has His leadership was considered radical. I thought that was pretty funny because so was Burning's. His radical leadership is what I named this next part. Just 2 days after his dear friend's murder, Romero took to the pulpit and delivered a message that attacked the government and how they are murdering and torturing and oppressing and disappearing, raping. I mean, he let him have it. He detailed the countless power abuses of the dictatorship, listing in detail the killings, the murders, the mass torturing that the press had never covered. So many stories people were hearing for the first time if they didn't already have personal knowledge because they were, affected by it. The press had never covered, had never reported on. His speech was broadcast on national radio and reached over 71% of the country. So he was able to, put this message right. They had dictatorship level news. So this was like, wait, what? This is happening everywhere, not just here? Well, we need to rise up. This is unacceptable. Romero's sudden shift from quiet neutrality to fiery support of the poor and marginalized shocked the left and the right across El Salvador. The Archbishop continued to give speeches that urged Catholics and citizens to stand up for the human rights of the poor and oppressed and people they didn't know. And to protest the government's killings every time that it's not okay. He published monthly letters and drew massive crowds each week to hear his sermons. His sermons were always about the poor, always about protesting the violence. Romero had become a radical leader for human rights within the Catholic Church. This is a quote. Oscar Romero is the definition of a leader. This is what leadership looks like. He's one of the greatest human rights leaders in human history. He inspired a whole generation of priests and citizen activists to speak out for peace and justice, to speak truth to power. And that's from Father John Deere, a human rights advocate and Nobel Prize nominee. He started his career as a priest, which everyone knows how I feel about that. But because of being inspired by this human rights activist, he wanted to make a difference like him. I think that's a good reason to do almost anything. You wanted to make a difference, so you got in there. Mid-level clergymen, let's see, Father John Deere, mid-level clergymen, galvanized by the Archbishop's call for a politically active church, forsaking neutrality, and took action to promote social justice. At the Jesuit Academy, they formed a legal aid office that worked tirelessly to protect the rights of all the citizens, the poor, the oppressed communities, for free. That's what this whole legal aid office was for. In the countryside, a group of 150 Catholic nuns and priests, inspired by the Archbishop's teachings, held a hunger strike to protest government human rights abuses. While many clergymen welcomed this more egalitarian change to their church's mission, all but one of Romero's fellow bishops turned their backs on his calls for solidarity. Because, when it comes down to it and the uppers are looking at you, you're like, they weren't. That's aggravating. However, but Archbishop Romero responded by dedicating sections of his sermons to the reluctant clergymen. He listed the names of those killed in the past week every Sunday, focusing on his opponents to consider the reality of life, for the impoverished El Salvadorians, their brothers and sisters, all who were God's children, supposed to be under their eyes. So he put them on blast every Sunday. He would call them out and then say, these people died in your, where your church is. Every Sunday, he was relentless. This weekly rhetoric eventually aligned the conservative bishops' ideologies with this mission of support for the poor, for the least among us, he said. As time passed, the Archbishop's speeches became more strongly worded. He implored Salvadorian Catholics to fight for human rights wherever they needed to be fought for all El Salvadorians. Romero stated to the people, quote, "Forceful insurrection was the right of the truly oppressed," end quote. And I agree. I agree. That's why they keep us separated, because if we had solidarity, we would get a lot of shit done. On the 23rd of March, 1980, just over 3 years since his appointment as Archbishop, Romero gave the most radical speech of his career. He called for government soldiers to lay down their arms and rebel against their commanders, saying, quote, "I would like to make an appeal in a special way to the men of the army, to the police, to those in the barracks. Brothers, you are part of your own people. You kill your own brothers and sisters. And before an order to kill that a man may give, the law of God must prevail. And it says, 'Thou shalt not kill.' No soldier is obliged to obey an order against the law of God. I beg you, I ask you, I order you, in the name of God, stop the repression. Amen." Now, those are crazy radical words, even today. Even today, if a politician or a clergyman or just a Joe Schmo had access, a platform to reach as many people as he was reaching, or she, it could be a she, and would say to the military, "Drop your weapons and rebel against the government." That's crazy, but he was serious, and you got to know, there's just no way I could fit this whole story in. There's so much. But the day before or 2 days before, within the 72 hours of him telling this most radical speech, there was a massive massacre the government did to protesters, and there was just body parts everywhere. It was awful, and he was sick of it. He was sick of taking, trying to help people get to safety from one, camp to another camp, and there's just bodies along the way of women tied up and naked, obviously were raped, but then totally tortured, boobs cut off, and just, he was sick of it. He didn't want to live like this. He knew it wasn't like this everywhere. And the thought that the most powerful nation in the world maybe didn't know what was going on, even though they were funding it, maybe they somehow, which, come on, but maybe they somehow were being lied to, and he thought that they should know. He actually wrote, right before he wrote this speech, he wrote Jimmy Carter, President Carter, a letter saying, "Stop sending weapons to these death squads. Did you know you're funding death squads? Did you know you're funding," and he just named so many war crimes. As a preacher, I can't stand this anymore. So that went to Jimmy Carter. And now he's doing this massively radical speech. The very next day, Romero was fatally shot by a government death squad as he led mass at the funeral of yet another friend of his. A shift in church policy followed. Before Romero was Archbishop, the leadership of the Catholic Church in El Salvador indirectly supported the dictatorship, preaching acceptance of the established social order, people's place, and to know it. Romero's decision to officially speak out on behalf of the oppressed, to speak truth to power, had a significant impact on the Salvadorian church policy. Individually, remember I had said Jesuit and parish priests had supported the poor. They just did it in vain earlier. They had supported the poor and oppressed, but without resources, nationwide coordination, or official support. Their efforts were largely in vain. The radical leadership of El Salvador's highest-ranking clergymen helped galvanize that efforts across the country and gave the movement's validity in the minds of the previously unconvinced, more conservative priests. With Romero's support, the campaign to support the poor and speak out against government oppression became a nationwide mission of liberation theology. The church, which had long supported the oligarchy, either directly or through inaction, neutrality, I'm in the middle, and had become one of the most significant proponents of human rights in El Salvador. Romero had, and many like him, such as MLK, had chartered a different, more humanistic course for their theology. All were worthy, especially the least among us, as they would say. Quote, as Archbishop, Romero shifted the church's emphasis from one of church-state complicity to a church intent on defending its poor and marginalized. Helen May Eaton. And for the very first time in El Salvador's citizens had the support of one of its institutional leaders, because before they were just lowly peasants. Legacy. Today, the Catholic Church in El Salvador remains committed to human rights and social justice, actually, which they're conservatives there. They have a lot of crazy shit going on right now, but for the most part, liberation theology is still huge there and Bolivia. I mean, huge. The current Archbishop had this to say, quote, my duty is to raise my voice to defend human rights and democracy. And MLK was a preacher of this very liberation theology. The civil rights fight here in the US originated in Black churches. And then I have this amazing thing, which, what is liberation theology, if someone really wanted to know, under MLK is a little bit different than it was in Latin America. Rationalistic, not biblical. Naturalistic, not miraculous. Anthropocentric, not theocentric. Ethical, not doctrinal. So I thought, I can get behind that. It's more just like do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing as a community. And I dig it. Black theology is what it was called in the South. MLK, the Black churches, the Black colleges. Liberation theology is what that falls under. It refers to theological perspective, which originated in some Black churches in the United States for the US version of it. I think that it was a movement. People met in the churches each week. That's where they met each week. And each week, people would stand up and say, so-and-so got lynched. My sister went missing. We can't afford this. We keep getting laid off. My husband gets all these things that were happening to the community. And there's only so much a community can handle. And liberation theology says that everyone matters. You don't believe in God? Fine. You deserve everything that everyone else. You do believe it's a different God? Fine. You deserve the same thing. It's about I think they didn't know how. I mean, they knew church, so it's a theology. They still used God. There's still God. You still prayed to Jesus, but it was humanism with some churchiness. And there's so much. I covered like 1/1 billionth of what's out there. There's so much because it started in a few different places. This liberation theology. The Pope we have now is why he's called the left Pope or the Marxist Pope, which you'll find him being called the Marxist Pope, is because he says Oscar Romero had it right. He made him an official martyr of the church within the last 2 years, which I found out by researching the story. The Pope right now was going on and on within the last month about capitalism, how it's the fall, I don't agree with organized church. However, I have to acknowledge the Pope has a huge platform and millions and millions and millions of people do believe. So I have to take that seriously. And I would prefer that person that they believe in to have humanistic values. And so, I mean, the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they tried to kill liberation theology under Reagan. Those death squads that went down to Guatemala, we could not have liberation theology. That's why we couldn't have MLK doing anything here. He was talking about equality for all, equity for all, some sort of a UBI, healthcare for all. There's no reason all the other countries have it and we don't. Education for all. I mean, MLK has come out and said that he's a democratic socialist. That's what he was. That never got talked about in the States. Most people don't know that about him. But he was considered a radical liberation theologian. And there was so much to learn. I still have so much to learn. It's very fascinating how there's a lot to throw out of the Bible, and I get it. I get it. But they said, we're already coming to church. There's something bigger than us. We have too much to fix to be worried about these fairy tales in here right now, And I can get with that. I lived like that for like 20 years. Like, none of the stuff is true, but there's still something bigger than me. And I love you, kumbaya, Right.
Do you get it, though? I think you need to recite the Atheist Pledge right now.
It was just
Eat
very
a baby.
beautiful.
Prove it.
I've become such a more magical thinking. And it was nice that these people in this particular, way of thinking was more of pre-civil rights, and where they had a pulpit, a stage to talk on was church. And so that's how it happened. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for
civil rights,
that.
man.
Thank you for sharing it. Civil rights, hell yes.
Civil rights, man. Yeah.
So I missed a bit of that because I was very involved in the chat. I apologize.
That's all right.
I was having a good conversation with Amaya.
Yay!
So
she's so great.
I think I frustrated her a bit, and
she likes really good conversation.
I apologize,
and she likes to be challenged. So,
but I really didn't mean to tick her off. I really didn't. So
she's a big girl.
Let that be said. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to re-listen to a good portion of that tomorrow at work. But I'm excited for it because every part that I really caught was really good. So I'm excited to listen to the rest. Your articles more or less are one of my favorite things about the show. So
yay!
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Well, we are now past the 2-hour mark. We are never going to have a 1-hour show, no matter how hard I try.
Right.
There's just too much to discuss right now, and we only do a once a week show. Yeah. You just do this every single day, Christy, and we'll just talk less, right? That's what happens.
You know how they just pause the stocks are just pause Wall Street, oh crap, pause. We just pause the bullshit coming out of the administration and be like, look, too much bullshit, overload, pause. Society needs a pause. You can pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. Oh, I love you. Remember, try to learn something at least once a week or more. Just what's that about? And then see what it's about. Yeah. That's how I found liberation theology.
That's cool.
So I'm still pretty anti-theist, but I'm not anti-liberation theology. I'm actually pro-liberation theology. And if all Christians, what a wonderful world. Just a whole bunch of MLKs running around, wanting to make the world better than the way they found it each day.
That'd be much better.
Right?
That'd be much better.
Yes.
I would advocate for that. So.
Yes.
All right. Well, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I hope you enjoyed your Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending the last parts of it with us. We will see you again next week. I don't know what the topic's going to be.
Yes.
We'll find out. We'll probably touch on the coronavirus and the election again, because we do have the debate with Bernie and Biden. I kind of want to just do that live or right after. I don't know if you and Nacha are up for it, but if you guys are, I'll just stay up on Sunday night and we can go live and we can talk about it. And then we don't have to cover it on Friday. Right? So you guys let me know if you're down, and we'll do another live show. But that'd be awesome, because I'm excited to see it, and I'm mostly excited and hopeful that Bernie kicks Biden's ass. And
yes, balls. I hope he holds his feet to the fire and actually challenges him on his record and lets people know. There are so many people that didn't even know, Black voters who didn't even know that Biden lied about his civil rights activism. Lies. I can't. Being better than Trump is not good enough. It's just not. Mr. Bean is better than Trump, and he wipes his butt on the floor when it's itchy. It's really cute, though. It's really cute. Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Yes.
We love you guys.
We do love you guys.
And just stay humanist.
Humanist, for godless sake.